So today I want to discuss injury prevention in the workplace. I think it's an area that we've really come forward in, but it's something that we still have a lot of work to do. Most of the strategy so far is looking at reducing the overall load that a worker has to undertake, or reducing the repetitive nature of that particular job that they're doing. I suppose one of the issues with continually reducing someone's load over time is that their body's work capacity or ability to absorb load also reduces. This will obviously reduce a worker's risk initially, but as time progresses and as that person's skeletal system is able to absorb less load, their actual injury risk will eventually increase. This is why I think it's important for us as employees to compensate for these changes in our job, and it's also important for us to think about the unique demands that our job has and ways in which we can compensate for this and prepare our body to be able to do this job into the future. If you compare it to a professional athlete, they'll prepare their body over many years to ensure that they get the most out of it. I think that us as employees and the general public just looking to reduce our risk of hurting ourselves needs to take a leaf out of their book and think about how can we prepare ourselves best for life to get, one, the most out of it, and two, to reduce our chances of injury. So we'll just take a look at a couple of common jobs that seem to have a high prevalence of problems. So firstly, we'll look at someone who works at a desk most of the day. Naturally, certain muscles are going to be in a shortened position, and if they're held in a short position for long periods of time, they're going to be prone to tightening. Sitting in a supported chair, your core is going to be less active and therefore can become sluggish over time. The lack of movement during the day will also slowly deteriorate our overall conditioning if we don't compensate for it outside of work. These tight muscles will put extra stresses on our skeletal system, and the muscles that are supporting the skeletal system are also fatiguing quicker because they're not being used as regularly, and therefore their ability to absorb load is reducing. The way in which we want to compensate this is, number one, by reversing that curve. So if we're sitting in a flex position all day, we'd like to try and exercise in more of an extended position. So starting with walking, cross trainers or elliptical trainers, and running, just to be in an upright position to compensate for that sitting is a good start. On top of this, you would also want to do multi-joint strengthening exercises and a lot of single arm work, just to help activate that core and also just keep your general strength up. Additionally, for a lot of desk workers, we're in a very closed position, so typing on a computer, we're in a slightly flexed position. I think it's important to open up that chest, so incorporating a lot of pulling exercises is also a good recommendation. Another job that seems to have a lot of issues is in healthcare, so we're thinking about nurses and carers. In this field, there's been a lot of progression in regards to lifters and the like, and non-lifting policies, but unfortunately, when you're in healthcare, you're there to protect people. So if someone falls or stumbles, naturally it's in your instinct to try and help them, and that can be where a lot of injuries can arise. It can also occur from looking after people in hospital beds or nursing home beds. Because of the width of the bed, you find yourself leaning over that bed a lot, and that puts a lot of demand on those lumbar muscles to hold you into that stabilized position. So quite often your healthcare workers and your nurses don't have the issue of sitting too much, because they're generally on their feet, walking around quite a bit. It's more in regards to the muscle endurance and being able to hold sustained positions for long periods of time, and the fatigue of those muscles over a period of time is what generally will result in injury. when looking at reducing injury risk in this particular group, I think it's important to incorporate functional lifting techniques, in particular deadlifts and squats. When you break up someone's day, it's actually surprising how often someone has to deadlift something, whether it's deadlifting from a surface or deadlifting from the floor. It's just that we don't realise that we're doing it. Also, when you're looking at squatting is a great exercise to improve your flexibility and be able to get your body in an optimal position to lift things, whether it be from the floor or from a raised surface. These functional lifting techniques, I suppose, are more directed at back injuries. The other common injury that you will find in this particular field of work is in regards to your arms and shoulders. So similarly to your desk worker, you're very closed quite often. So I think incorporating a lot of rowing and single arm rowing is important to, one, activate your core, and also to reverse that closed position that you will find yourself in regularly. Stability work, I think, around the shoulders is also very important, with a focus on your rotator cuff. But it's not just about strengthening your rotator cuff. I think adding in some perturbation to replicate those varied movements that can happen during a day at work.